Subscribe because it is free.
Jake Martinez had exactly 17 minutes before his shift started, which meant exactly enough time for burnt toast and questionable coffee. The mining station Kepler, 442B, wasn't known for its culinary excellence, but after 3 months of recycled everything, Jake had developed a philosophical approach to breakfast. If it didn't kill him immediately, it was probably fine. He grabbed his maintenance tablet and headed toward Cargo Bay 7, muttering about faulty atmospheric processors and whoever designed ventilation systems while clearly drunk. What Jake didn't know was that his Tuesday was about to become very, very interesting. The cargo bay door hissed open, and Jake stopped dead. A hole the size of a small shuttle had been punched through the reinforced hull plating. Not blown out, punched in. Something had broken into the station, and whatever it was had apparently brought friends, judging by the scattered supply crates and what looked suspiciously like claw marks in the metal flooring. Well, that's new, Jake said to nobody in particular, and probably against company policy. He stepped carefully through the debris, following a trail of some kind of bioluminescent fluid that definitely wasn't in any maintenance manual he'd ever read. The trail led to a pile of torn supply containers, behind which something large and decidedly not human was making very quiet breathing sounds. Jake crept closer, tablet ready to call security, until he got a good look at what was hiding behind his carefully organized inventory. It was roughly humanoid. If humans were designed by someone with serious anger management issues and a fondness for extra teeth, black, biomechanical, and currently bleeding some kind of acidic substance that was slowly eating through the floor plating. Either I'm hallucinating from too much recycled air, Jake said thoughtfully, where I found the galaxy's ugliest stray cat. The creature was unconscious, possibly dying, and significantly smaller than Jake had expected based on every horror movie he'd ever seen. It also had what appeared to be blast wounds across its torso and a distinctly hunted look, even while unconscious. Instead of running, screaming, or immediately calling security, like any sensible person would do, Jake found himself analyzing the situation. The creature had broken in, yes, but it was injured and hiding. That suggested it was running from something, not hunting something. The wounds looked fresh, and the way it curled up behind the supply crates suggested defensive positioning, not offensive. Mom always said he couldn't leave well enough alone. Jake spent the next 20 minutes doing what he did best, improvising solutions with whatever was handy. He rigged a containment field using or processing equipment, set up a crude medical station with mining tools that definitely weren't designed for biological applications, and created a barrier that would keep the creature contained while protecting it from whatever had been shooting at it. If it wanted to kill me, it would have done it already, he reasoned, mostly to himself. Plus, it's unconscious. Even I can handle unconscious. He named it Zen, because Scary McTeeface seemed unprofessional, and settled in to wait for it to wake up. His maintenance tablet cheerfully informed him that no similar creatures existed in the company database, and helpfully suggested he try turning it off and on again. Jake looked at the unconscious alien that was slowly dissolving his floor and decided his grandmother's advice about feeding strays was about to get its biggest test yet. Zen woke up 3 hours later to find itself trapped behind a shimmering energy barrier, staring at a human who was casually eating a sandwich while reading technical manuals. Morning, sunshine, Jake said without looking up. Don't try to bite me. I'm all gristle anyway. The creature tested the barrier with one clawed hand, found it solid, and settled back to study the strange human who had somehow captured it without violence. Jake pushed a protein bar and a cup of coffee through a small gap in the containment field. I figure if you're going to kill me, you might as well do it on a full stomach, Jake explained, turning a page in his manual. That's coffee, by the way. Fair warning, it tastes like industrial solvent, but it keeps you awake. Zen had never encountered prey that offered food to its predator. The concept didn't fit any behavioral pattern in its genetic memory. It sniffed the offering suspiciously, then consumed them while maintaining eye contact with the human, waiting for the trap to spring. Jake continued his routine for the next 2 days, treating the deadly alien like a particularly antisocial roommate. He brought food, shared his terrible coffee, and kept up a constant stream of one-sided conversation about maintenance schedules, supply shortages, and his theory that whoever designed space stations had never actually lived in one. On the third day, Jake noticed Zen responding to specific frequencies when he used his sonic calibrator to adjust equipment. The creature's head would tilt at certain pitches, and it seemed to recognize patterns in the sound waves. Finally, Jake muttered, grabbing his mining laser and adjusting its frequency output. Universal language achieved. Basic electronics. It took another 6 hours of patient experimentation, but Jake managed to create a crude communication system using his tools. The first successful exchange was Zen indicating hunger by tapping the barrier in specific patterns. "There we go," Jake grinned. "I'm hungry" translates pretty universally, doesn't it? He shared his own limited rations, explaining human concepts through demonstration. Pack bonding, he called it, showing Zen pictures of his family on his tablet. Chosen loyalty, he explained, describing how humans adopt everything from broken robots to apparently space nightmares. Zen found itself mimicking the human's mannerisms without realizing it. The head tilt when thinking, the gesture patterns when communicating, even the strange ritual of consuming the bitter liquid the human called coffee while discussing the day's activities. You watch fictional conflicts for pleasure? Zen managed to convey after Jake showed it a movie during their evening routine. "It's called stress relief," Jake explained. "You should try it instead of, all the murder." The concept of entertainment, of watching struggles without participating, fascinated Zen. Its species knew only survival and conquest. The idea of choosing conflict for enjoyment, of finding patterns and meaning in fictional stories, opened neural pathways that had never been activated. Jake began explaining human concepts that had no equivalent in Zen's experience. Loyalty through choice rather than genetics, protection of the weak, sacrifice for non-family members. These ideas contradicted everything Zen understood about survival, yet the human demonstrated them daily. Then the station security systems began detecting anomalies. Jake's growing protective instincts toward Zen warred with the practical reality that discovery meant explanations he couldn't give. "Company says report all anomalies," Jake mused, checking his tablet as alarms started sounding in distant corridors. "Company also says I get 2 bathroom breaks per shift. Company's not always right." Zen observed Jake's decision to prioritize loyalty over regulations, watching a human choose personal risk over personal safety. The concept of protecting something that offered no genetic or survival advantage baffled every instinct Zen possessed, yet the human's determination was absolute. "Well," Jake said as the alarms grew louder, "there goes our peaceful morning routine." Commander Sarachin arrived with a full security team exactly 47 minutes after the alarm started, which gave Jake just enough time to hide Zen in the ventilation system and practice looking innocent. He was terrible at both. "Routine inspection, Martinez," Chin announced, though her hand never left her sidearm. "Everything normal here?" "Absolutely," Jake replied, sweating profusely while standing directly over the spot where Zen had been bleeding acid to the floor plating. "Just routine maintenance." "Very routine. Extremely routine, actually." Chen's eyes narrowed. "You're acting weirder than usual, and that's saying something." From the ventilation shafts above, Zen watched the exchange with growing confusion. The human was clearly terrified, yet he continued to lie badly in order to protect something that could kill him without effort. This behavior violated every survival instinct Zen understood. "We're tracking a dangerous xenobiological specimen," Chin continued, scanning the cargo bay with military precision. "Hostile, extremely lethal, probably heading for populated areas." "Sounds scary," Jake managed, his voice cracking slightly. "Haven't seen anything like that. Would definitely remember seeing something like that. Very memorable, that sort of thing." Chun discovered the acid burns in the floor plating within minutes. Jake's explanation that he'd spilled industrial cleaner while cleaning industrial cleaning equipment fooled nobody, least of all a military contractor trained in xenobiology tracking. "Martinez, I'm going to ask you one more time," Chin said, drawing her weapon. "Where's the creature?" Jake's response embodied everything that made humans simultaneously admirable and infuriating to the rest of the galaxy. "I don't know what you're talking about, but if I did, I wouldn't tell you." Chun threatened court-martial, imprisonment, and immediate termination. Jake's counteroffer was typically human. "How about you explain why you're hunting something that was running away injured?" "It's a killing machine," Chen snapped. Designed for one purpose, eliminating threats to its hive. Funny, Jake replied, because the only threatening I've seen lately is coming from people with guns. Zen observed this exchange from hiding, watching Jake face serious consequences for protecting something he'd known for less than a week. The human's willingness to sacrifice his own security for loyalty to a non-family member contradicted everything Zen's species understood about survival priorities. It's called basic decency, Jake explained when Chen demanded his cooperation. You should Google it. The situation escalated when Chen's team deployed scanning equipment that would locate Zen within minutes. Jake positioned himself between the scanners and the ventilation system, still maintaining his terrible cover story about routine maintenance and industrial accidents. Zen realized a human would face serious punishment for this protection. In its species, such loyalty was reserved for genetic relatives and hive queens. Jake was neither, yet he continued to risk everything for a creature he barely understood. The decision Zen made went against millions of years of evolutionary programming. It dropped from the ceiling between Jake and the security team, revealing itself to protect the human who had protected it first. Zen, Jake exclaimed. We talked about dramatic timing. The security team's terror was immediate and absolute. Training kicked in as weapons were drawn and aimed, but Jake casually stepped between the guns and his alien friend. Everyone meet Zen, he said conversationally. Zen, this is everyone. Try not to eat anyone. We've discussed this. Chen stared in disbelief as the galaxy's most efficient killing machine took protective stance over a maintenance engineer. You domesticated a xenomorph. I prefer friendship with benefits, Jay corrected. The benefits being I don't get murdered on Tuesdays. The standoff stretched tense and uncertain. Weapons trained on a creature that had chosen loyalty over survival, protected by a human who had chosen conscience over safety. Chen's finger hovered over her trigger, calculating odds and options. How about we all just calm down, Jake suggested reasonably, and discuss this like civilized beings? The station's long-range sensors chose that moment to detect incoming ships, and Chen's comm unit crackled with urgent transmissions. Her face went pale as she processed the tactical data. Multiple Xenomorph vessels approaching fast, she reported grimly. They're not here for mining rights. Zen communicated rapidly through the sonic system Jake had rigged, explaining what Chen's military training had missed. It hadn't been hunting when Jake found it. It had been fleeing. The Hive had ordered the elimination of a peaceful colony world, and Zen had refused to participate in genocide. So you're telling me, Jake said incredulously, that my friend has better ethics than your military contractors? The incoming war party consisted of 12 Hive ships seeking to eliminate their defector. Chen's tactical assessment was brutally simple. The mining station's defenses were inadequate, evacuation was impossible, and surrender wasn't an option Xenomorphs recognized. Jake's response was typically human. Less talking, more improvising death traps. Within 2 hours, the mining station had been transformed from industrial facility to improvised fortress. Jake repurposed everything with his characteristic engineering creativity. Ore crushers became defensive weapons, atmospheric processors became explosive devices, and mining lasers were recalibrated for combat applications. If it moves stuff, it can stop stuff, Jake explained enthusiastically, jury-rigging his 15th improvised weapon. And if it processes rock, it can definitely process whatever passes for xenomorph anatomy. Zen provided intelligence on Hive tactics while learning human concepts that had no equivalent in its species' experience. Teamwork between non-relatives, sacrifice for group survival, gallows humor in the face of certain death. This is either brilliant, Jake commented, wiring explosive charges to the main corridor, or we're about to become very educated corpses. Chen's military expertise combined with Jake's engineering solutions and Zen's tactical knowledge created defensive strategies none of them could have achieved alone. The human ability to find hope in desperate situations amazed Zen, who had been programmed to accept defeat when overwhelmed. If we're going down, Jake taught Zen the human battle cry. We're taking them with us. The Hive ships arrived with overwhelming superiority, advanced weapons, superior numbers, and genetic programming that knew no retreat. They faced 3 humans, 1 defector, and a mining station that had been transformed into Galaxy's most dangerous improvised weapon. The battle was chaos. Jake and Zen fought side by side with perfect coordination, despite fundamental biological differences, their friendship having created understanding that transcended species barriers. Chun witnessed something her military training had never prepared her for: the power of human pack bonding, converting enemies into family. When Jake risked everything to save Zen from hive warriors, Zen reciprocated without hesitation. When Chen's team was overwhelmed, both Jake and Zen abandoned their positions to protect the humans who had initially hunted them. The victory came through teamwork that shouldn't have been possible. Human ingenuity, alien evolution, and the stubborn refusal to surrender that defined humanity's approach to impossible odds. The hive ships retreated, their programming unable to process prey that had transformed into predators through cooperation. "Not bad for a Tuesday," Jake commented afterward, surveying the wreckage of what had been a perfectly ordinary mining station. 6 months later, Jake and Zen formed the station's official first contact team. Other humans slowly accepted Zen through Jake's example, learning that friendship could transcend species barriers when built on choice rather than genetics. Chen's final report noted that humans possess a dangerous ability. They made the galaxy more humane simply by refusing to accept that some things couldn't be befriended. Some friendships are written in the stars. Others are improvised with duct tape and determination.